Good afternoon to all, and welcome to the webinar Fintech and Insurtech Business Cases on Big Data, IoT, and Artificial Intelligence.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we just started. This is one of our guests, focus on technology that is changing digital finance in Europe. I am Gisela Sanchez, and I work as a project manager within Finance Innovation. This webinar is part of Finance Innovation main event, Fintech Community. For those that don't know Finance Innovation yet, Finance Innovation is a French cluster, a financial French cluster based in Paris. We gather around 600 members from the financial ecosystem. If you want to know more about us, do not hesitate to visit our website. It's going to appear.
I still cannot hear anything. No way here.
On the right of your screen right now. So today we will discuss about these technologies that are changing digital finance in Europe. Sorry, we have some technical issues with one of our speakers. And we will maybe focus in one H2020 project. This project is called Fin&Tech, and we are also part of this consortium. This is a huge digital finance project that gathers 46 partners from 16 countries and a budget of 21 million euros. But we will know more about this briefly. Before we start, I kindly ask you to complete a very small survey that appears on the right of the screen under the tab Sondag. So when you click here, you will see a few questions that will let us know more about you. So please take some seconds to answer these questions. At the same time, I will show the agenda. I will show the agenda to you so I can present our speakers. Just 1 second. I will show it to you. So you will see the agenda right now. Today, we are pleased to announce that we have 3 high-level speakers. To start with, we will have Pierre-Paul Sondag, project officer from the European Commission, that will discuss with us how digital finance is strategic for the European Commission. Then hopefully this will be followed by Ernesto Troiano from GFT Italy and project coordinator of the project I mentioned before in Fin&Tech. He will give us an overview about this project. And finally, we will have Jose Gato from Atos Spain that will give us some concrete cases about digital finance and what we are currently building within this project. Keep also in mind that you have at the right of the screen a tab that is question where you can ask all the questions you might have. We will save some time at the end of the webinar to ask these questions, ask your questions to our speakers. So do not hesitate to take the opportunity to use this tab. So now I will leave you the floor, Pierre-Paul. Floor is yours.
Well, just okay. I don't know. Okay. I hope you can see my slides. I don't know.
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. You can see it. So, as you said, good afternoon, everybody. I'm from the European Commission, from Directorate General Connect, which is in charge of digital transformation, and more particularly from the unit data policy and innovation. So you all know the statement, data is the new oil. Our new commissioner, Thierry Breton, who is a former CEO of Atos and a former French finance minister, has made some statement about that, that our society is generating a huge wave of industrial and public data, which will transform the way we produce and consume and live. This huge wave of data will change rapidly in the coming years. Particularly, it will be much more distributed, both in the collection of the data with IoT, Internet of the Things, and also in the way it will be processed in a much more distributed way with fog computing and distributed computing. Till now, with the handling of the personal data, the US particularly and China now have already were the winner of this race. But Europe has all the assets to catch up in the next step, which will be about this new big data wave about distributed and more distributed data. In particular, for instance, for 5G, Europe has more than half of the patent that were filed for 5G are European patents. So there is the capacity, the technical capacity in Europe to catch up. And as Thierry Breton said it, he wants that European business, and in particular SME, access this data to create value for Europeans by including also machine learning applications. And in this rise of the data industry, FinTech is a particular good candidate. FinTech is an incredible opportunity to develop the data economy and to reinforce the competitiveness of EU industry. But FinTech is also an opportunity to use this new data technology to empower the citizens. Very often in the public, the finance people are criticizing as being the people who have the power and who are pulling the strings of everything. Finance has quite sometimes some suspicion in the general public, and FinTech is an opportunity to empower citizens to through many applications to enable citizens to get the power to monitor their money. But finance is also based on trust. That's to be successful in finance, you need to have stability and confidence. You need IT solutions that are stable, resilient, that are evaluated in the real world. And you need also a legal and regulatory framework to enable, to make people trusting in this FinTech. But FinTech is also an opportunity to have credible shareholders playing a role model and to push all the rest of the population to adopt it. Just a few words about the legal and regulatory framework. That's one of the contributions of the European Commission, is to design a framework which enables to develop the FinTech. One of the most known and most discussed these days is a general data protection regulation, GDPR or RGDP in French, which, so we push, the Commission is pushing for sharing and reusing and valorization of non-personal data, but in the DNA of Europe, protecting privacy and in particular personal data is extremely important, and this has an impact on the technology of anonymization, pseudonymization, also on data minimization, so that these personal data are not used beyond the knowledge of the people for other goals than the one they were collected for and for profiling. There are other, and here the list is not limitative, but there are other regulations like the Payment Service Directive, which is a legal framework within which all payment services provider must operate. And this directive was based on a self-regulatory initiative of the sector. There is also the standards ADAS for electronic identification, which enables to provide trust and certify in electronic signatures, electronic seals, timestamp, and trust services for all the electronic transaction. And also, not to forget the money laundering directive, and there are more. Within this framework, so there is a legal framework, but the other aspect is also, one minute, also to support a strategy for a thriving data-driven economy. And this strategy is made through subsidies. It's made by financing projects and using call for proposal. And in the case of the Fin&Tech project, it was a laureate, it was a winner of a call for proposal from 2018 under a challenge. So the goal of the call was called HPC, high performance computing and big data enabled large scale test beds. This objective, this challenge was basically separated in two. One was more focused on HPC and the other more on big data, and Fin&Tech was in this 11B, which was more focused on big data. And the ambition of this call for proposal was to select proposal projects that were innovation actions, so using mature technology and turning them into closer to market solution. Lighthouse projects, so big project. We are here speaking of big project. And this call for proposal was already bridging for the next framework program, which is called Horizon Europe, which will go from 2021 to 2027, which aims at bigger action, large-scale pilots, extreme-scale analytics, also data economy enablers, and societal pilots. Leverage on this new IoT resources, with a particular attention of involving SMEs, and there is an expected increase in innovation and productivity. Also, this project should show an effective integration between big data, cloud, technology. So, in this call was not focused on fintech. There were other projects selected in other application domain. But why was one fintech project relevant here in the case of Fin&Tech? Because fintech has a potential of quick growth. Fintech is not just about doing things better, but also doing this in a disruptive way to validate disruptive use cases and business model. So Fin&Tech will use AI, data, machine learning to improve automation and competitiveness in existing business models. So not only disruptive ones, but also improving existing business model to improve the competitiveness and also to address the regulatory complexity. I must say, Fin&Tech is a really strong lighthouse project because it covers all the fintech technology. So data, machine learning, cloud, big data, but also blockchain and IoT. By covering all technology, it also addresses various fintech application domains, and I would suspect most of them. So on one side, the one for the business, like risk scoring for bank and insurance, which could increase competitiveness of the industry, but also the one which will enable to empower citizens to be more autonomous, like financial investment advice for the general public or easier and more affordable payment methods. It also covers financial fraud and crime detection and personalized insurances, where this IoT dimension with IoT in vehicles, enabling to make a very well-tailored insurances, or in agriculture, where there is a use case which is extremely interesting. One of the particularity of Fin&Tech is that it combines really large key players, for instance, even very institutional key players like the National Bank of Slovenia, vibrant small SMEs working about machine learning, standardization of computing. And all these several use cases that Ernesto will present you afterwards are evaluated and developed in the real world. So it's not developing only a sandbox system that is tested in the sandbox, but also really confronting the expectation of the general public, and perhaps what is even much more the one who are perhaps much more difficult general public, which are the finance professionals. So this, I would stress that this Fin&Tech is not only of value for the consortium partner. Of course, they are the first beneficiary of the output of this project, but it will also provide benefits, we hope it, for the whole fintech community. So communication and dissemination events that will be organized by the project, deserved by you all to be followed. And I'm quite sure that the fintech ecosystem can benefit from it. Fin&Tech should be a way to build a community beyond the consortium, which is already very large. Also, another aspect is this project is about innovation, but this project can also influence policy making. There is some sort of interrelation of synergy between the innovation and the project and the policy making. The fintech is currently an area which is developing, which is not totally shaped, and there is room to adapt the policy to the need of the project. So I invite everybody in of course, the Fin&Tech consortium partners, but also all the people from the fintech communities to participate to EC stakeholder consultation, which are regularly made and where you can, in a questionnaire, give your opinions. Sometimes some of the people are invited also by my colleague to get a face-to-face opinion about policy issues relative to this area. So to finish, I wish a lot of success to Fin&Tech, and we also believe that Fin&Tech will be a big success because they have all the assets in their hand to be so, and I'm quite confident that Fin&Tech will make a difference in fintech. Thank you for your attention.
thank you. Thank you very much, Pierre-Paul, on this introduction about Fin&Tech. This was great. And now I will leave the floor to Ernesto.
Yeah.
Hope everything is good.
Okay.
We can hear you perfect. So I let you share with us your presentation.
Well, thank you so much for with such an endorsement from the project officer. I would be part of the project because it sounds a very interesting one. I'm trying to present now, so please allow me. If you find any problem, please tell me, because what should I do now? Present screen 1, probably screen 2. I'm sorry about that. Yes, I think I can manage now. Why seeing that I have a lot of problem with the security, yeah, with this remember this decision, allow, okay, you tell me when you see something.
Yes, we can see
okay,
now.
great. So first of all, I would like to thank you. My screen meanwhile disappeared completely. Okay, first of all, I would like to thank you, Gisela, for this opportunity, to thank, of course, the European Commission and Project Officer Pierre-Paul Sondag. We are working on this project. Forget about my presentation. Besides, my name is Ernesto Troiano. I'm a senior manager of a company named GFT, which is an international multinational group, German company, but with 11 countries. So I'm a senior manager in a company that deals specifically with the financial sector. So we help as an integrator, a financial institution, insurance company. So we are in the business of this industry, which is very complex. So Pierre-Paul has already introduced the overall background of this H2020 project. I will get into some detail because there are some relevant topics that I would like to share with you, because we are creating a community. So we will talk about this later on, but this is central to the project. Now, we start from the background of the problem that we all know. The people involved in the fintech, in the financial sector, the insurance sector, we all know that this industry is conservative. We can say it because it has to do, because it is creating trustworthiness. People get the money in the bank because they trust them. So if they were revolutionary, in a way, they will be less trustful. However, there is a lot of pressure, of course, from the digital transformation to provide better services. It is a competitive industry. So digital transformation from one side is an opportunity, and we all are looking for better services, even from the side of the public, of the consumers, of the European economy, and I would say of the global economy. So we are trying to make better out of this digital transformation, which is disruptive at the core, at the DNA. So if it doesn't disrupt anything, it will remain the same, and probably there will be less and less opportunities for everyone, for the consumer from one side and from the provider. This is the background that we all know. And we all know also that it's data-driven. So most of the services are built around the data gathered from the transactions, the usage, the users. And so it's very data-intensive, the industry. And of course, the data management is at the core of yet another digital transformation, which are the big data. So being able to manage the big data values, vastity, veracity is one of the key, of course, of the competition and the service provisioning. So from the other side, there is a lack, if we analyze the business, of powerful tools. So most of the time, the banks reinvent the wheel. They put the problem with solution made by extensive project, very high cost, long term, with a lot of challenges, and they reinvent the wheel most of the time, not all the time. So from this background and from the key facts that the data in the industry are fragmented because, of course, they have to be, disclosing some kind of information is, of course, a problem. So they are kept in silos, but the value is also from aggregating them, in finding patterns that cut the barriers and the limits. However, the regulatory frameworks, the law, the GDPR, the privacy, the security directives are there to stay. And they have to be coped, and we have to be compliant with them. So we cannot just break the barriers. It's almost not feasible, not possible, and not legal. So we have to face with the siloed data, but from the other side, this is the same thing that limits the growth of technologies, of standard solutions, and tools, analytics, and so on. So this was, besides, when you come with new services, you have to validate all the chain, from the technologies down to the business. Well, you first start with the business, of course, and then you go to your development and application. So everything is a very high cost, and besides, it lacks some leveraging of tools and technologies and intelligence that we want to put at the problem, at the very ground of the problem. Therefore, we propose in 2017 was the time, but it was acknowledged in 2018, this project, which was called Fin&Tech, is still called. We have still then changed also the logo. So the project is pretty huge. It has 47 participants right now, with some newcomers that joined the project in the last few months with their ideas of launching their services, and we fit them inside the project, which is mostly based on demonstrator pilot. We will talk about them also with the Gato later on. So the project is huge, has a big cost, as a total budget, receiving a very significant grant from the European Commission of almost 16 million euros. It will last 39 months. We are almost completed the month 8. We are starting month 10, basically. So we are going forward to all these ambitions of the project. The project is about two things, basically. Bringing some innovation out of the technologies like management of big data, IoT and AI, machine learning, deep learning technologies from one side, with a very flexible and interoperable way to put things together. We will see later on from one side. And from the other side, with a strong execution made of a very important part of the assessment of the all use cases, framework around the problems that we want to solve in terms of integration of the finance system, with some kind of general framework to solve the problem, like test beds and boxes, the reference architecture we'll talk on, a reference mode. So from these two sides, innovation from one side, the strong execution plan from the other side, we want to provide to the market, to the industry, and to all the stakeholders a new way to solve their problems with some kind of innovation that can be leveraged in very specific vertical fields. This is the idea of the project. Of course, we were very ambitious, and probably this was the reason why we were granted, we were, let's say, recognized as the winner of this tough competition among the other projects. So we brought together three kind of course, players here. From one side, the technology leader, the vendors. We are one of them. I'm from GFT. There is Atos present today as well. There are either big players like IBM, Fujitsu, Hewlett-Packard Engineer, even not European but global. Okay, we are a global economy, so the major player, of course, from the world, with of course a very strong interest in developing the European economy from one side, and from the other, of course, there are the research centers, the academia, the more scientific players. But together, and at the core, there are the fintech and the end users, the financial institution. We have banks, we have central banks representative like Bank of Slovenia, national banks like Bank of Greece, Bank of Ireland, Bankia, big groups of coverage. Almost Europe, almost all Europe, with presence almost everywhere, and we are still aggregating more players because this initiative is important and takes a lot of interest. From the other side, there are the SMEs, and which are core to the European economies, fintech companies, SMEs, and players that knows how. Now. So we brought to the problem the global player, as we said. We put also from the other side existing tools. We will not reinvent the wheel. Of course, we want to integrate the best practice and tools and technologies together, provided either by the players, the vendors, the fintech companies, but also from other side of the market. We will not reinvent the wheel. We will try to integrate as much as possible, building the part on top of it, which will be the added value, the smart, the intelligent part, this let's say way to solve the problem in a very modular and extensive way. But the other side will be very important, to look constantly by design at the regulatory frameworks. As mentioned by the project officer before, we will look not just the GDPR, which is, of course, a pillar in the European framework of regulations, but specifically to the PSD2, to the 4MLD, and the FI2, and this in regulation of the industry that are very important. So with all this, we have designed a project around pilots, use cases, demonstrator, if you want, with the idea to build a test bed where we can play with technologies. I use the word play because it's going to be a playground, a sandbox of technology where we will exchange the solution in order to find out the best ones. So we will put their analytics, machine learning, modular, configurable, high-power computing to the problem, in order to provide the best solution out of the services that the end user and stakeholder want to build. So central to the project are the pilot, as already mentioned. We have clusterized them. This is the cluster of the cluster in finance, and we will have also the cluster in insurance. What we are looking for? We are looking for the problems maybe already solved. In some cases, this problem have already been solved in the old way, and the old way is to put money, people with specific and vertical technology. However, the innovation here is to solve them with more analytic tool in a more scalable and cost-effective way out of these building blocks that we will talk about later. So the cluster in finance are the retail and also retail and wholesale banking services. One of the topics is know better your customer and your business. So we put more intelligence and analytics in analyzing the data coming out from the data sources of the banks specifically, providing services like, for instance, portfolio management, to scale down the cost of this portfolio management, which usually are highly priced for high-end customers. But in order to democratize them in a way, we will put more intelligent and more convenient way to analyze in order to provide better services. So this is one of the pilot managed by at least two banks, and also oriented to SMEs, to small medium enterprises, the management. And this is the personal investment banking. And from another side, we will look for a better assessment of the services from the point of view of the risk, of the sustainability of the business. So we have another couple of use cases that deals with the big data information, where we can assess better the risk and the profitability of the services. Another very important topic, not just of the finance, but especially in the finance, is the security, is financial crime, fraud detection, anti-money laundering, cybersecurity also. So we have a cluster, very important one, that will provide more and accurate services, analyzing transactions, behaviors, even with use cases that goes a little beyond the usual sector, like analyzing what's going on the blockchain, the blockchain that we all use or somebody use, from Bitcoins to Ethereum to whatever. So also public blockchains, to find out what can be discovered ahead with some kind of prediction analytics too. A very ambitious project. The other two clusters regard insurance, personal insurance services, from the domain of the insurance for vehicles, and from the healthcare. So there are two specialized.
Ernesto, sorry. Yes, sorry. We cannot see the slide. Actually, it looks like it is frozen. So we are still in the third one. Maybe we can check.
I'm sorry, because I'm going through.
See, otherwise, I would take.
Yeah.
We'll start for you.
Well, probably it's better because again, even if I'm from the side of the technology, not always I can master the technology. I'm sorry about that.
Don't worry. So we are in the okay.
Okay. Anyway, what I was presenting before, it was just the schematic blocks of the pilot. If you can get to the reference architecture, is on page. Well, I don't know what's the page. Sorry, but the Fin&Tech era building blocks or architecture. I will speak about the approach that we are following very quickly. So, because I want to get to a very important point. So, if you can present the
reference architecture. Yes, I think I have it. The workflow example, is this the point? You can see my screen now.
No, I cannot see anything because my screen went blue. Okay. Anyway, but the point is, okay, right. You are presenting probably this scheme of the architecture, which is yes. An important one, okay? So, how we can manage to solve a large class of problems besides going into all of them and finding out the solution the old way. So one of the aim of the project is to provide some reference use cases, modeling we call them, and one of them is the reference architecture, and the other one is the reference data model. Okay, so we are not alone here because others have already tried to to normalize the solution of some problems, reference architecture, which are for to provide schemas to solve large class of problems. So this is based also on the BDVA, the Big Data Value Association, which is also one of the sponsors of the project. After they are layering architecture, layered architecture that has identified segments where the components will fit. So the idea here is to have a reference schema where all the use cases should map in order to find out common blocks, already established solution. We will work on them in order that they will be interoperable, exchangeable, fit for one specific task, but at the same time replaceable. So we will provide solution where you can pile up, stack components in a workflow to solve the transformation of one side of the information to the other. This is one of the key achievement. We call it is a milestone of the project. We have already mapped all the 15 use cases, and that we have identified the blocks and the component that we will develop in the project. The next slide, please, is referring also to this. Okay, you didn't have the latest, okay, but I was referring to the financial ontologies, which is called FIBO, and we will use it in order to reference the data that are flowing from one side of the workflow to the other with semantic ontologies on that, with categorization. We need to have a common language, but not only this common language, but also this common understanding of the data. They can come from different sources, but we need to treat them seamlessly, referring to them as a general common data model and semantic background. So this is another key point of the project. And again, we are defining also these ontology. The next slide, please, refers to the challenge that we have. So the challenges are, of course, we need to map this general schema to the use cases, to the real world, which is not trivial, of course, because every use case is different. But this exercise provides us the way to find out the common building blocks, both in the big data and machine learning side, but also from the point of view of the standard blocks, high power computing blocks needed in order to solve most of the problems. The data storage, the data manipulation. One of them, for instance, is the anonymization. That, of course, it is important in most of the cases because we want to be, we have to be compliant with the regulatory frameworks that are there. So there will be blocks that will be interoperable and will provide solution cross-cutting to the other platforms. So these are the challenges that we have, and of course, more importantly, we will find out that these new services that we will build out of this technological solution should be validated in the business. So they have to be effective when proposed to the market. So is everything intertwined in a way? We are facing at the problem by the both sides, the business side and the technological side. So we are proceeding together. But this is not just technological and business driven, is also community driven. So if you go to the latest, last slides, the one before, sorry, the previous one, this one, again, what the project is building is a technology platform, is a use cases, demonstrator, but more importantly is the awareness that the industry needs a way to solve problem more effectively, more powerful, more with more features appealing to the public. That's why we launch also within the project this initiative called the Fin&Tech Stakeholder Alliance. It is key to the project, and it is an initiative where we ask the industry, the players, the stakeholders to join in order to help us and help them to solve the problem, to put more intelligence, more use cases, more solutions to the problem. That's why we launched this initiative. We spread the verb. This is the occasion to promote it. So I am doing this marketing promotion to the project and also to this initiative, which is very important. So in the next days, we will also build the tools around the Stakeholder Alliance. One of them is the marketplace and the VDIH. Marketplace is the way, of course, is a business application, basically, to show up, to showcase the solution that we will build, like the machine learning, the data management component, but also the knowledge, the information, the white papers, this reference architecture, the tutorial courses, and also in collaboration with this virtual digital innovation hub that we want to build, there will be the tools around which the community will find out the same common language and solution to be more competitive in this industry. So basically, this is everything about the Fin&Tech project as an overview. This is the last I said, just that we will build in blocks out of the pilot all the stack up to the marketplace, and that's it. So I thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm ready, of course, to take a question if you have. Otherwise, I'm here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ernesto. Yes, well, now I will leave the floor to Jose. We have not that much time, but Jose, now the floor is yours. Okay. You can share your presentation with us.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I will share my screen. Okay, do you see my screen, the slides?
Yes, great.
In full screen. So, okay. Well, first of all, my name is Jose Gato. I work in Atos, more in concrete in the Atos Research and Innovation department. So we are a department that are fully focused on research and innovation, and specifically in the unit of artificial intelligence and robotics. In the Fin&Tech project, I am in charge of leading the work package that is about implementing the different pilots of the project. So my idea for today is to show 3 of these 15, 17 pilots that we have in the Fin&Tech project. The different pilots that we have are enclosed into different categories that we have in the project. For example, the first category that I will cover is called personalized usage-based insurance products. So this is about insurance products and how to personalize this to the final users. The pilot I will talk in concrete is it's about a personalized insurance product based on IoT connected vehicles. So we have different partners here. I don't take longer about that, but Atos as the leader of technology provider with a connected car platform and artificial intelligence platform. and for example, CTAC, that is at the Technological Research Center in Spain, in the city of Vigo, and they have different cards, drivers, and they have their own onboard units and platform to get the data from the pilot. And well, we have the support also of Gradient about anonymization data, and Dynamis, that is a Greek insurance company that provide the requirement for the use case. The idea in this pilot is, okay, let's take the data from this connected vehicle in order to create new models to classify and categorize the different drivers in order to better provide them with more personalized insurance services. For example, one of these services, pay as you drive, that for the name you can imagine, because this is not something new. Maybe it's new the way that we will do it, or maybe about the amount of data that we will collect, or the quality of data. There are other similar services that maybe are more based on your mobile or other kind of information. The idea is to get the data directly from the car, and not only from the car, but also from the infrastructure. In this case, it's from the city of Vigo, so we have also information about the city, if there are some important events, or there are incidents, traffic jams, whatever. We collect all the data through connected car platform. Here we will use technology about big data, anonymization, gathering and filtering the data, to later get this data into the artificial intelligence platform, where we will develop different artificial intelligence models using different artificial intelligence techniques. At the end, the insurance company will have a service that is going to answer about if you are a good driver. Similar to this, we have other service that is fraud detection. The information that you collect is pretty the same. I don't have time to go in details, but the idea here is also to collect more, not only information from the car, but also from the behavior of the driver, because the idea in this use case is not detecting if you are good or bad, is providing a driver's classification. So this service tells you if you are driver A, B, C, D, or wherever. We will have a cluster. We will use clusterization techniques in order to have different kind of drivers. How to use that? Okay, the idea is that if you have a contract with your insurance company and you are driving during 1 year all the days with a similar behavior, you are driver classified A, whatever it means, A, but suddenly one day you are driving as a driver classified, I don't know, D. So this could be strange, maybe in case maybe someone stole your car, or maybe in the case of accident, someone is using your car instead of you, and you have a special policy with your. Okay, so this is the idea, is to try to detect possible fraud detections or things strange according to the behaviors of the drivers and the classification. About the data that we will use, CTAG will provide the cars with about 20 vehicles with 4 hours by day of information, and we are studying if we can use some historical data coming from other previous projects. Well, by the moment we have around 600 gigabytes to start doing the models. Also information from the city of Vigo with traffic events, among 1 tera. We will use other simulation tools to provide synthetic data, more synthetic data about drivers and cities, etc. Well, the real life challenges. Insurance company needs to be adapted to new services. This is not so easy, because in principle everybody wants something like, okay, I want to pay my insurance depending on how I use this service. No, now everybody wants to pay depending on what they consume. So in making a similar approach, also insurance companies are based on the idea that you have good and bad drivers, or not so good or not so bad drivers, and the bad drivers cost money to the company that is compensated in some way with a good driver. So these services paying as you drive, it seems much more fair, especially for the good drivers. But until the moment, it's not so easy to get very good data. Okay, the quality of data is not so easy. This is where the new connected cars will play a very important role, because you will get very accurate data directly from the car, not using other external services. Also, to combine different data sources and protocols is not so easy. And when you have everything, you have to create these intelligent services that it's not so straightforward. Even during the presentation, I am using the term good driver, but even that is not so easy to specify what is good or bad. Okay. Well, in Fin&Tech, we will create everything for testing, for development, about sandboxes. Sandboxes are the infrastructures, the hardware that we will use for develop. In the case of this pilot, we'll use a cloud infrastructure that is going to be shared by different pilots in the project. There are some pilots that have their own testbed. In this case, we will use a common one that will be used by several pilots. And in this testbed, everything will be in some way virtualized using Kubernetes, so everything will be isolated and secure. And we will install and deploy the different components and technologies from Fin&Tech to create what we call a sandbox. So a sandbox are a combination in this chain or pipeline that was shown before by Ernesto. We deploy these services component, we chain them, and we provide this as a sandbox inside a testbed. Other category is personalized retail and investment banking services. So this, instead of insurance companies, is more focused on banking services and in providing new services for their customers. In this pilot, what they want to implement is a smart and personalized pocket assistant for the client. The bank that will implement that is Liberbank. GFT will be the technological leader with the support of universities and machine learning development of cloud policy company. They will create different smart services about identifying recurrent payments to detect something that could be overdraft, or maybe a new recommendation based on similar clients, this kind of services. Here, the architecture is very complex. I don't go in detail, but what I would like to remark here is what they will use as data sources are their customer profiles, but also enrich it with the customers' information about the different transactions that they have, and also the bank offering. So mixing all the data sources, and through different technologies that they will implement, they will provide these different smart alerts, automatic proposals, and so on. Here, just a look at different technologies that they will use, but okay, I will not go in details about the technologies that we will use for implementing machine learning, or the different big data technologies that they need to use to combine and to manage this amount of data. In their case, it's still not clear, for example, in this pilot, if they will use the testbed cloud or on premises. This is something that is being studied. In this case, they will have their own testbed. The bank's pilot usually will have their own testbeds. And the third category and the third pilot is about financial crime and fraud detection. And this pilot that it will be implemented by Actic Bank, it's about trying to detect fraud, analyzing blockchain transaction graphs. Okay, here main technology that they will use is blockchain and big data technologies. So what they will implement is when you are moving the money from these virtual platforms to a real bank in this moment, very quickly, close to real time, they need to detect if there is something wrong there. So what they will do is to analyze all the transactions from this person from the very beginning to this last step, moving the money from the virtual platform to the real bank. So they create a huge graph with all the transaction, even interconnecting different virtual platforms, Ethereum, Bitcoin, to generate this huge graph, and with some blacklist that they manage, try to detect in this graph is someone included in this blacklist was involved in all the chain. So it's very challenging because the transaction graphs are going to be huge. The number of transactions that they need to analyze between Bitcoin, Ethereum, or others, and to do that in real time is really challenging. So maybe if it seems, well, they have very concrete functionality, a very concrete service, but it's going to be really challenging from the point of view of big data and blockchain technology that they need to use. So in their case, the test bed that they will have to run is going to be very demanding, and with high performing computing and capabilities. They are thinking until like around 30 nodes, 1 terabyte of memory each. So it's very interesting and very challenging pilot. And okay, just last quick, and matching this with the reference architecture that was shown by Ernesto, and it's a very important point in Infinitech is that now we are working on moving from the architectures that the pilots already have, like for example this one that belongs to the autonomous connected car that I presented at first. This is a traditional one, and now we are moving to this standardized of reference architecture that wants to provide Infinitech. So we are moving from here to something more close to this one, or the pictures that was shown by Ernesto, where we have different component technologies, services in Infinitech. Each one belongs to different layers, from infrastructure, data management, layers that are corresponding to the BDBA reference architecture. And in order to implement, so we will be able to show the pilots as a data chain or pipeline that we can construct, combining the different technologies of the different layers of Infinitech. And well, by my side, this is what I wanted to present, to focus on these 3 pilots. Remember that we have 17, so this is just a small piece of all the pilots that we will implement during the project.
Thank you very much, Jose. I want to thank to all of our speakers, Pierre-Paul, Ernesto, Jose. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we won't have time to ask all some questions that were asked during the webinar. We have another webinar that will start very soon, but we'll share with all of the participants the presentation, and there is one retransmission of this webinar that we available just after the webinar finished. So if you have any questions, please, you will have the contact of the person that presents on the presentation, or you can contact me from Finance Innovation so we can make the link with the correspondent person. Thank you again to all of you. And
thank you, Gisela.
for joining this webinar.
Really, thank you,
Bye.
Gisela. And bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Gisela. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.